Hey everybody, welcome back. I'm Mason, and today we'll be talking about some general slang and terms that are used in the trans community to talk about being trans. So let's just dive right in. Our first term is FTM, and FTM is an acronym meaning female to male, which is also known as a trans man. I am FTM, I'm a trans man. Pretty self-explanatory. And then MTF is the opposite. That's male to female, also known as a trans woman. Now, FTM and MTF are sometimes seen as not the best terms because people don't want to be reminded of what they used to be or what they were forced to be. And so usually we prefer using trans man or trans woman to describe ourselves in that manner. Now, I'm going to need to define the word binary. That means male or female or woman or man. So a trans guy or a trans gal, those are binary people. And same with cis guy or cis gal, because they're one of the two ends of the spectrum, binary. And so a non-binary person is someone who's neither male nor female and not a woman or a man. They're somewhere in between. There's a lot of terms for that, but non-binary is the main overarching term for that. So those are the three kinds of trans people. Trans guys, trans ladies, and non-binary people. Now, all trans guys, like myself, are what we call AFAB, and that's an acronym AFAB, assigned female at birth. Which just means the doctor said I was a girl, doctor was wrong, I'm a guy. Or a non-binary AFAB person is someone who is thought to be a girl but is actually not either. And then trans women are AMAB, and so are some non-binary people. And AMAB means assigned male at birth. So that pretty much covers the basics. Now, cis, C-I-S, cisgender, cissex, whatever you want to say. Cis is someone whose gender aligns with their sex. It's the opposite of trans. Most people are cis. You probably interact with at least 100 cis people every day. And then there's a term called transsexual, or sometimes transsex. It's transsexual is an older term that was used in a medical context. Usually either transsexual or transsex are used to mean that this person who identifies as this wants to medically transition all the way to a binary sex. Not always is it used in this manner. Some non-binary people use it that way. Some people who can't medically transition use it. But that's typically what it means. And then there's the word transgender, which is an all-encompassing term for trans people that the term has fallen to some controversy, as sometimes it includes gender non-conforming people, which is a whole other debate that we're not getting into. So basically, there's transex, transsexual, and transgender. Those three terms any trans person can use. They can pick one or several. Then there's something very important called intersex, which is a medical condition which the individual often has a mix of primary and secondary sex characteristics. This can either be genetic or like with multiple sex chromosomes, or it can just be a malfunctioning piece on one of the sex chromosomes that causes the body to not look like a normal, like a perisex person's body. I'm a perisex person, as far as I know. Most people are perisex. It's a fairly rare condition, but a lot of intersex people are trans because they realize that they don't really fit into the sex category they were assigned at birth, which is a whole nother video that I'll do at a later date. So as I said, perisex is the opposite of intersex, where you don't have any of the medical conditions, where you're in between. And then GNC, or gender nonconforming, is anyone who doesn't conform to the stereotypes of their gender presentation, such as like a masculine lady or a feminine guy, anyone who's androgynous, just kind of vibing. So that's what that's about, and that is different from being trans. Alright, so let's get into the terms used on a daily basis by trans people. First one up is passing. Passing means being correctly gendered by strangers or looking like your gender. Generally, you say, "Oh, I'm passing pretty well today. Everybody called me sir. I got told that I was a young man. I feel pretty good about myself." Or, "I'm not passing great today. Some people called me ma'am," or "girl." I didn't like that for my case. It would be different for other trans people, other types of trans people. And then there's two words that mean the same thing. There's stealth, and then there's cis-passing. It means presenting full-time as your gender and nobody knows that you're trans. I'm stealth at work currently. Not sure how I pulled that off, but yeah, I'm mostly stealth at work, so nobody knows that I'm trans. Some of the people misgender me because I'm not quite passing all the time every day, but I do my best, and when I say I'm a dude, nobody questions it. And then there's a thing called non-passing, which is someone who doesn't pass but is often trying. Some people can't pass because they're just made to look like the sex that they were assigned at birth. They look an AFAB that looks very female or an AMAB that looks very male, and they can't shake it without like hormones or surgery. And then there's also people who choose not to pass, either for safety reasons or just because they don't feel like it. It's complicated. And then there's this thing called clocking. When you clock someone, that means that you look at them and you figured out that they're trans. It's usually by their look or their voice or something they do or something they say. But it's not a pleasant experience, and you don't want to be clocked. It's usually thought of negatively. And then we have boy mode and girl mode, which is presenting as your sex assigned at birth to hide for your safety or because you're not accepted. Most trans women have to go boy mode until far into hormones because of how powerful testosterone is and how much it masculinizes your body. Trans guys often have a better time not having to be in girl mode. Like me, I'm pre-testosterone, and somehow I'm able to not girl mode. But it's a pretty painful experience to know that you're supposed to be this and you still have to be that. A lot of people who are closeted have to boy mode or girl mode. So, yeah. And then we have dead name. It's the person's birth name that no longer fits their gender and so they no longer use. Like a trans guy whose name is Alex, who used to be Stephanie. His dead name is Stephanie. He's now Alex. You don't call him Stephanie anymore. That sort of thing. That's a dead name. Misgendering is gendering someone incorrectly, either due to them being non-passing, supporting them in boy mode or girl mode, and or out of transphobia. So when I don't pass and people call me ma'am, that's misgendering. It's not actually their fault. It's my fault because I'm not passing. It still hurts. If Alex, that I was talking about before, decides that he can't be out right now, and so he goes by Stephanie and is in girl mode. His friends will support him by calling him she, her in front of his parents, but he's still a dude. And then there's people who go around just telling people that they're not the gender they are and just calling them whatever pronouns they want, which is a whole other basket case and is not accepted. And then this is a less favorable and more controversial term that some people use, but it's Hun, H-O-N. It's usually an older trans woman who is trying her best to pass but just can't because she's had testosterone in her system for so long. Usually they have to have, she will have to have several surgeries to fix that, but it's an unfortunate position to be in, and yeah, it's not a very nice term to use. It's pretty mean, so please don't use that term. Alright, so let's talk about the medical side of it, the terms that we use. HRT is an acronym for hormone replacement therapy. Typically the first step in a person's transition medically is to get a different the opposite sex hormone. Usually you don't just jump into surgeries without, getting on hormones first and having them change you and making sure you feel like that's okay. So with hormone replacement therapy, there's testosterone for AFABs. Testosterone is the male hormone. It makes you have the cool jawline and the beard, and you might go bald, but you'll get all muscly, potentially. Has a lot of side effects, has a lot of great side effects, has a lot of great effects. I love testosterone, can't wait for it. There's E, which is estrogen, which is taken by AMAB trans people, along with an anti-androgen, which is a testosterone blocker. So with those two, they're able to transition into a more feminine or a female physical body. There's also blockers, which are hormone blockers, which are started early in puberty to prevent the body from developing secondary sex characteristics any further. So usually like 13, you're feeling dysphoric, you have for a while, you're like, Mom, I need to not do this. You get put on blockers, everything just kind of stops until you get put on a new hormone. Or you can be taken off the blockers and continue your regular puberty if you realize that it was something else. There's a lot of controversy around using blockers because there are a few rare side effects, but typically it is the first medicine that doctors prescribe to trans teenagers. There's also another hormone that AMAB trans people take, which is called progesterone. It's a secondary hormone. Estrogen isn't the only female hormone in the female system, and so you kind of need both of them to be properly hormonally balanced. It just helps everything be more correct and more accurate to what an actual female is, a cis female is like. Alright, and so now we're moving on to surgeries. We have top surgery, which is the removal of the breast tissue in AFAB individuals like me. So if I say I'm getting top surgery, it's I'm getting rid of my chest. But if an AMAB says that they're getting top surgery, they're getting breast augmentation. So it's surgery having to do with the chest area. That's what top surgery is. And then there's bottom surgery, or SRS, which is sexual reassignment surgery. It's either creating a penis or a vagina, depending on which way the person's transitioning. So my bottom surgery, I'll be making a penis. A trans gal's bottom surgery, she'll be getting a vagina. That's how it works. And then there's a few extra surgeries that some trans women just opt to have or need to have. There's FFS, which is facial feminization surgery. It's usually cutting down on the jawbone because it's too large, too masculine, to make it look more feminine and small. And then there's also VFS, which is vocal feminization surgery. So they cut down on the Adam's apple, wherever mine is. Here it is. So they cut down on the cartilage here so that your voice isn't as deep, because it's really hard to get that voice to go up sometimes. Which the only way you can get it to go up without the surgery is voice training. Training one's voice to help passing and alleviation of dysphoria. So basically, it's training your voice to sound like the opposite sex, or a difference, or in between, kind of. And then there's an endocrinologist. That's a doctor who monitors and prescribes the hormone replacement therapy and the blockers, which includes T, E, progesterone, anti-androgens, all that stuff. So they control the hormones that we take. Alright, so there's 3 different kinds of transition. There's social transition, where you change your clothes, you change your hair, you change your name, your pronouns, just changing your appearance to try to pass as the gender that you are, just telling everybody what you actually are. Then there's medical transition, which is taking HRT, getting gender confirmation surgeries, etc. That whole list that I just mentioned. And then there's the legal transition, which is getting legal documents changed to reflect your gender, like your driver's license, your birth certificate, your marriage license, etc. Is also changing your name on those. So now we're going to move to different purchasable items that you can use to help you feel better or pass. So we're going to talk about binding first. Binding is flattening the chest using a binder to conceal breast tissue. A binder is a compression top for reducing the size of the chest. Here I have my daily binder. It's a size too big for me, but I love it. It has a thick material on the inside that doesn't stretch very much, as opposed to the material in the back that stretches pretty well. And this part here goes against my skin and it flattens me. It makes the tissue go flat and look more like pectoral muscles. Pretty nifty device. 10 out of 10 would recommend. And then, so that's for guys and non-binary people who have a chest. And then there's packing, which is placing something in your underwear to emulate having a penis. This can include anything from socks and other homemade devices to professionally made prosthetic penises that are very beautiful, if I may say myself. This can include, a packer can also be an STP, or a stand-to-pee device. These are options for cis men and trans individuals. The ones for us look like penises, while the ones for cis women look more like funnels. I love STPs. They're super great when you can figure out how to use them, but you have to get one that matches your body type, and you just have to try it and figure it out. There's a few great cheap options online for either sex, for trans or cis individuals. There we go. And you just gotta look at it if you're interested. Alright, for the AMAB individuals, there is tucking, which is hiding the penis between the legs to eliminate any bulge you have. It's to help passing. There's a gaff, which is a special kind of underwear for doing that, for the tucking. And then trans women also get bras with these prosthetic breast tissue so that the top passes better. And some trans women even have hip side places that to make their hips look bigger so that they pass better. Alright, so dysphoria is a term often used, gender dysphoria, which is a medical condition where one's gender does not align with one's sex, often causing discomfort or distress. If you want to check out more information on dysphoria, you can click on my video below this one. It talks about dysphoria in the first 5 minutes or so, and then I go on to talk about my dysphoria. Alright, and here's some more online terms. There's this term called egg, and it's a person who hasn't realized that they're trans yet. Hatching is discovering that you're trans, and hatched means that you're out and you're trans. And you're presenting as your gender. And then there's the word TERF, T-E-R-F, which it means trans-exclusionary radical feminist. It's a misandrist who enjoys telling trans people that they're fake and advocates against us. They are one of our main problems, to be honest. I will do a video about transphobic language in another video where I will talk more about TERFs. Alright, and the last two is gender and sex. A gender is the sex of the brain, and then when people commonly say sex, they mean the sex of the body. So my gender, my brain sex, is male, while my sex, my body sex, is female. Therefore, I am a trans guy because I have to match my brain because there's no way to fix the brain. But yeah, I think that's all the terms I need. If you have any questions, go ahead and comment. I'll try to get to you. And I hope you have a great day and enjoy the video. Please like and subscribe. I'll see you next time. Bye.